This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News, News-Free Dixie for the 21st century.
Okay.
I'm originally from Greenwood, Mississippi, by way of Carroll County, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
I relocated to Memphis in 1967. I left when we began to be dispersed. You know, my other family members like SNCC.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had CORR, C-O-R-R-E CORR then,
Right.
headed by James Farmer. I was a citizenship teacher under SCLC. I spent time in McIntosh, Georgia under Stephen McClark. I taught citizenship classes on my mother's front porch. The way I was recruited in 1960, I believe, or 61, I was crossing Broad Street. That's a street in my hometown. And Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Turry, was coming down the street, and he stopped and he said, "How you doing? What are you doing?" Excuse my God. So he asked me, what was I doing? I said, nothing but working. I said, and I work at Blue Dot Cab Stand, and I make $14 a week. So he asked me if I would like to become affiliated with his organization. I said, explain. He said, this is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. So I hooked up with SNCC, which is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Then it was called Congress of Racial Equality. Then I went to attend school with Fannie Lou Hamer. We all were in McIntosh, Georgia, going to school. I would like for a lot of people to be remembered from Greenwood, Mississippi, because I worked with Swanner's wife, Rita, Michael Swanner, Cheney, and Goodman, that was buried in Philadelphia. Those were my friends. Miss Lula Bell Johnson, one of the people that were beaten in the Winona, at the Winona train station, bus station, or whatever they had up there. But the thing that made me come back into the movement is because I feel like Simba from the Lion King. I learned something from watching Lion King with my grandson. Simba ran away because Scar told him, down with the king is gone, get out of Dodge. So I feel a lot like Simba, because when his little girlfriend Nyla came to Simba and said, Simba, you must go back to Pride Rock. This is how I feel about coming back to unite with my people, because every goodbye ain't gone. And this is how I feel about it. I come from a family of 5 sisters, but I had a very strong and brave father. And he used to tell us that, boys, you know, he said, you got to stand up for yourself and be strong. So this is what made me not scared to get in the civil rights movement in the first place. I did 27 days at the Penal Farm under a man named Artivist. I lost a child in the 60s as a result of police brutality and snatchings and grabbings and different things. I feel blessed that I'm not dead, and I feel blessed that I'm here to help educate the young people, because I have a large family. I got some little ones that I need to, I tell them they better not ever fail history. So my mama lived in a shotgun house on Avenue K, and I was holding my classes on the front porch of her house. We were threatened many times, but I was more used to a threat than my mama, because we hung out at the Broad Street Park and we talked about, we wasn't, just like when we were marching in the movie, we said we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. And so we had a SNCC office on Avenue N. Brother Dave Sanders, who should be well remembered, his daughter, Miss Maddie Bell Pilcher, just recently passed, but she has children and grandchildren. She has 2 daughters at Mississippi Valley State College. And I talk with them, and I tell them, your grandfather is going to be remembered, because I'm making sure that he does be remembered through book writing or through whatever means. And a lot of my friends, one of my most recent friends passed, June Johnson, who was with her mother, Lulabelle Johnson, they from Greenwood, that was beaten at the bus station. My best friend was Dr. Indesia Cat Ida Mae Holland. She's my best friend. Ida Holland is the person that took her life all the way to a playwright called From the Mississippi Delta. Her book is From the Mississippi Delta. Please buy it. And Eyewitness in Philadelphia. The doctor I worked for gave me that book. So Dr. Indesia passed about, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. Her mother is the person that was burned on Gibbs Street, and her flesh was still on the sidewalk. After she burned, they was trying to kill her, but her mother had to run out of the bombed up house and fall on the sidewalk. So at my age, I feel good that I'm able to have freedom in this country, the freedom of speech, and the freedom of what Dr. King always stressed so dearly. I've been misrepresented plenty times. I want them to do just what he said. Don't judge me by the color of my skin, but the contents of my character. So Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So that's me. I'm enjoying working with Maxine Thomas. She's my best friend. Mm-hmm. So I'll let her take over now because this is about to become a movie.
Yes, well, thank you.
I'll tell you. You know,
what's your name? State your name for the camera.
My name is Maxine Thomas, and I'm an activist here in Memphis. I'm with CORR, Commission on Religion and Racism, headed by Dr. Isaac Richmond. But you know, it is just ironic that she said this is going to become a movie, because I have something on my heart that I want to do before I pass away. I have nieces, nephews, great nieces and nephews, and I look at all the children around the world. And I do know that me as an activist, that I am not doing all that I can do and all that I should do. So I am reinvesting in my freedom in order to let it trickle down to the freedom of generations, younger generations and unborn generations. And I do know that I have a charge to keep. And I'm grateful to God that I'm in pretty good health. I got my 70th birthday coming up the 16th of July. And as long as God keeps my head hot, I'm going to be fighting for liberation and freedom.
Thank you. We'll state your name for the camera.
My name is Sarah Clark, Evangelist Sarah Clark, out of Detroit, Michigan. And I'm here in Memphis now, living in Memphis, and I'm working with CORR. And what concerns me is workers' rights, since I'm a former employee of Chrysler Corporation and a former member of the UAW. And workers' rights interest me, and I fell victim of harassment and sexual harassment on the job. And I have witnessed over 14 years of sexual harassment and just harassment, discrimination within the workplace being unaddressed by the union as well as labor relations. And anytime I witness harassment and sexual harassment, discrimination, I have to move, I have to act, I have to do something to expose the ugliness of the injustice. So again, that's why I'm here in Memphis, to support CORR and workers' rights in any form and way that I can.
Thank you, ma'am. State your name for the camera.
Sandra Hebron. I'm also a member, an active member of the CORR organization, the Commission on Religion and Racism. I'm a native Memphian. I spent approximately 23 years in New York. And since I've been back, and even before that, I've been involved in the, I would say, human rights movement. My main interest is in the criminal justice system. I have a son who's wrongfully incarcerated, and I know other young men also, since I've been working in that project. And that's what I really have a passion for, to do something about this inequality in the criminal justice system. And I would like to work to free some of those, and I hope when some of those get out, we can work together to free others, because our young men are in trouble, and our young brothers, and we need somebody to help work with them and pull them out. So that is really my goal and my passion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Richmond?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make sure I get your logo.
All right.
Okay, so state your name for the camera.
Isaac Richmond.
Yes, sir.
National Director of CORR, Commission on Religion and Racism.
Like what's this gathering about here today down in Forest Park?
This gathering is the final phase of the launching of a movement to erase this treasonous Confederate history from the face of public property. More specifically, we want the National Register of Public Places to rescind that move they made to honor Ku Klux Klan Imperial Wizard Nathan Bedford Forrest by putting his name on the historic record of public places. We also want the city of Memphis, in the person of its mayor and city councilman, to rename this park. Perhaps Dr. Martin Luther King, or Nat Turner, or Malcolm X, or any other freedom fighter, in contradiction to this antithetical history of a murderer like Bedford Forrest. We also want, and we're going to be taking to the new Attorney General, Eric Holman, evidence that Bedford Forrest willfully, premeditatedly, with malice and forethought, had 300 soldiers, black soldiers, murdered at Fort Pillar at the close of the Civil War. And we want him tried for war crimes and murder posthumously.
Yes.
Now, some people will argue that why you want to cover up history. You know, this is part of our record.
No, we don't want to cover up history. We want to uncover history. It has never been said. The things that I said about Bedford Forrest, that's not promoted. Bedford Forrest is promoted as some kind of honorary figure in the Civil War. And let me just be clear on the Civil War. The Civil War was an act of treason against the U.S. government. So it deserves no honor from the U.S. government. And we want the U.S. government and the real Americans of freedom and democracy to denounce and condemn this kind of history and put it in its appropriate place.
Well, what did Bedford Forrest do before he became a prominent Civil War general? What was his?
Well, he was the organizer of, and became the leader of, and died the Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Was he a slave trader in Memphis?
Slave trader.
Okay.
All that slave trader, black hater.
I mean, actually, like they said, he repented before he died, or he came to old age.
We know that they all repent. Hitler repented too.
I was like, no, also they.
But we think that retribution is important. I mean, you know, they said that the man who wrote the Amazing Grace, How Sweet It Sounds, he was a slave trader, sitting on top of a slave ship named the Good Ship Jesus. And after he made all his money, and just like the Western world, after he made all his money, now they said on his deathbed, I understand, he repented. But the Bible tells me that you got to reap what you sow. There ought to be some payback. All right? And yes, Bedford Forrest is history. Everything is history. But let me just give an example. I don't think Adolf Hitler was history. The Nazi regime was history. The murdering of 6 million Jews during World War II was history. But I don't think that the Jews would allow or be silent if the statue of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi swastika flag was flying in the middle of Jerusalem, and they were paying taxes for its upkeep and maintenance. And I want to tell you that the African American community, personified in the Commission on Religion and Racism, is not satisfied with a murder of our people standing up here in a public park where we paying taxes on his upkeep and maintenance, and we want to put an end to it.
Well, it's actually like we always talk about the last words of dead men. I know that what I read is that he wanted to stay buried. He was originally buried in Elmwood Cemetery on Crump, and that's where he wanted to be buried at originally, and he wanted to stay buried close to his men. So is there a way to honor his last request, so to speak, and also appease the African American community?
Well, let me say this about where he ought to be buried. Quite frankly, I think he ought to be buried on the land of those who love him. The sons and daughters of the Confederacy, the imperial wizards of the Ku Klux Klan, and the alien nations. I think he ought to be buried on their private property, and they'd be responsible for cutting the yard and upkeep and maintenance of his statue.
Well, I know several years ago, A.L.L came down here to help out with, I believe, bring acknowledgement to what was going on with the Forest Park situation.
Yes.
Why is it taking several years later to really try to get the ball rolling?
Well, I don't know. As I was away, I heard that that Brother Sharpton faced some resistance when he came down here. I don't know from what quarter, some political resistance that he ran into, and I guess that movement at that time fizzled out. We also read in the paper a few days ago that someone had said that, well, we will now put the Bedford Forrest protests or resistance movement on pause, but the Commission on Religion and Racism wanted to correct that. We're not putting it on pause. We're going to be with it until we finish the job.
Makes a lot of sense to me. And also, I'd like to ask you, I know you said Commission on
Religion and Racism.
How has the religious community responded? Have you got any reach out, cooperation?
Well, the black religious community, as you know, and I'll give you some information about why the name of my organization, Religion and Racism. We consider religion and racism the twin weapons of mass destruction that's responsible for the condition black people are in. Religion, the mental weapon of mass destruction, designed to imprison the minds of our people to function only within the framework of white supremacy. So the religious community, by and large, has done nothing.
That's impressive. I know this is also the 41st observance of Dr. King's assassination in Memphis, and it seems as things change, we got a black president, things still remain the same. We got this Forest Park, and it seems like that. Well, what's with the apathy of Memphis? Why is Memphis like such a sleeping giant? I mean, we talked about the religious part as part of the white supremacy plan, but what else is driving us to be so apathetic when it comes to things like this?
Well, there's an abundance of not knowing. I don't want to be offensive and say ignorance, but there's an abundance of not knowing. Our school system here is probably the worst in the nation. 75–80% of our black students that graduate from school in Memphis, now 75–80%, cannot read, cannot write, cannot stand up and make a...
You said graduate now. You didn't say drop out.
Yeah,
you didn't say
graduate.
Right, graduate. Right, key word, graduate.
Yeah. So that's part of the apathy. They don't know. They have no clue about who they are. The school system does not teach who I am as a black man or as part of a black nation. And we have a leadership, which is normal. It's been like this for hundreds of years. We have leadership that is just under the radar, of those who rule over us. And so they don't function outside of that. They're not going to resist that. They don't break out. They're not going to break rank with that. And that's what we have in Memphis. That's why it happened. So a movement must be built to break through that, and CORR is busy trying to do that.